Abba, we love you so much. Our desire is to follow you. Our desire is to be not only betrothed to you, but to one day come to a place where we are wed to you permanently, forever. Father, I thank you so much that there are people here like myself. I mean, there's no way that I would have come to you on my own. But you picked me out of sin. You called my number. You selected me. And I'm so grateful. We are grateful together because without you, we are sunk. And we want to be the kinds of people that truly are the bride of Messiah. That we anticipate your coming. And that we're the kinds of people that do what we can do now to put on that beautiful, beautiful wedding dress. The righteous acts that you have given us, that we might walk in them. May you find us beautiful. We know that our beauty is nothing without being clothed in your majesty. We know it's because of you. But there's also those who are actively seeking to cooperate with your sanctification. We want to be made holy, separate unto you. We love you very much in Yeshua's name. Amen. Well, let's admit it. The Pharisees are people that we kind of love to hate. You know, they do all the things wrong, and we see Yeshua coming against them and giving them hard words, and we're like, yeah, you go, Yeshua. Yeah, you tell them like it is. And I admit that sometimes it is hard for me to put myself into the spot of the Pharisees and the Sadducees. I have been hard-hearted. I have been one who has been impressed with my own theological prowess instead of having a humble, childlike faith, a heart to come before the Lord. So I want to make sure I balance those. I don't want to, there's nothing in Scripture that says we leave our brains at the door, but there's something about we need to know our Bibles really well, but we also need to be utterly in love. So my own life, I don't know, I'm just going to tell you so that way maybe you can relate. I don't know what your story is like, but I'm going to tell you mine. Because it came a little full circle for me this last week, and Umberto got to witness it because we went out to breakfast, and you'll see. So when I was a kid, there was something that I had with the Lord that was, in retrospect, unique. I mean, I had a heart that was a big, big kind of heart. And I prayed and I sang, and as the story goes, I remember feeling this, but my mom and dad took us to a church. I went into the kids department, and they came on with a song that just somehow hit me inside, and I sang with everything that I had. And it was like for reals. And I was in the presence of the Lord. I don't know, maybe 5, 6. I couldn't even tell you how old I was. It was just, I was there with him. And someone had recognized it from the outside. Mom and dad came and picked me up, and they said, you know what, something's going on in this children's department. You know, I'm not putting myself above anyone. I'm just saying my experience was I was so in love. And I carried that on through my childhood. My mom and dad went to a charismatic church in Merced, California. It was Jack Hayford's son-in-law, Scott Bauer. Jack Hayford had a very popular, bigger church in Van Nuys, California. And then his daughter, Becky Bauer, was married to Scott. And then one of my earliest theological conversations was with Scott Bauer in my backyard in Chowchilla, California. And I remember that. I remember going to the Bible bookstore, and I got a Bible, and one of the first theological books I picked up was Arthur Pink. And I took it to the counter. I think I was 11, 12 years old. And they looked at me, and they looked at the book, and they looked at me, and they looked at the book, and they said, interesting choice. Because it was one of those real heady books, that, and honestly, at that time, I could not really fully understand what I was reading in this theological book. But my heart was so in it to win it. It really was. I just wanted him. I wanted him. I wanted him. Well, life took over. I went through the high school years, and during those high school years, I made a few mistakes, just like a lot of people will do during those high school years, try to figure out myself, what I was all about. And then I got married, had a couple kids, and life demands money from you. A lot of money. And you just kind of get bogged down in all this stuff of just trying to survive. I still had a heart for the Lord, but life is starting to harden me. And I'm trying to figure out how to hold these two things in tension. Well, I started to move along, and then I was working at this big church in Fresno, and after that I went to seminary and all this kind of stuff. And in all of that, what I noticed was the more I got to know the Bible and the more that I was around other people who knew the Bible, but they didn't have a heart for the Lord, it was a really interesting situation where I had the love, but the love started to it never waned. It wasn't like that. But the reality of life was starting to grab hold of me. It just kind of got me. And I started to recognize that I better watch out because the world in its pattern, it'll overtake you in all sorts of ways. I think we've all experienced this. Well, one of the closest I ever got to actually publishing with a royalty book company was with Josie Bass. They gave me a call and they said, hey, we want to consider your proposal. And I went over the proposal, like, it sounds good. I sent in the first couple chapters. But what I recognized, and she told me this, she's like, well, just so you know, in some of the chapters, it feels like you are berating or not. It wasn't like a talking down, but it was like more mechanical in its presentation. I totally got what she was saying. She was totally right. I got it. But at that time, I was starting to recognize that something else was starting to get its tentacles inside of me. Up here, I knew that I wanted to know the Bible and I wanted to be in love and bring those things together. But you know that just because we can say that, we can even show it on our hands, that the actuality in our life, that's two different things. So, I did all those degrees. I have a lot of letters. I don't care. I have a lot of letters. But the reason I have those letters is in part because I wanted to know him, but still, even in the institution itself, it comes and it grabs you and it grabs you and it grabs you. And only in recent years, there's been this convergence in my life. And the convergence is, and I'm going to say it crassly because I don't know how else to say it. I'm just a guy trying to communicate, and that is, I got a big old dose of I don't care. That I don't care about what the world thinks of me. I don't care about trying to impress anybody. I don't even care if I make money, don't make money. I'm just like, but I say it in all the right kinds of ways now. There's a certain release inside of me that I just want to give my whole heart. Like the Psalms tells us that we have this one last breath and then we're going to die. And I kind of feel like I've breathed in, breathing out. That's all I got. And I just want to make sure that breath is completely for the Lord. And I want that same for your life. And I want you to know that you might not get that breath today. You might be just kind of catching your breath. I totally get it. These are the things that God does through his Spirit to sanctify you over time. It's something that you can give your mental assent to, but it's not something that you fully form in you. The sanctifying work is still a work of the Lord. Salvation is completely by grace, saved by grace through faith. But sanctification, the development of the Messiah inside of you, is also a work of the Lord. You can participate in it. You cannot kick and scream in the process of giving yourself over to it, but still there's a maturing process that happens. And I look at the Pharisees sometimes, I'm like, you guys just get it together. And sometimes I think the Lord says to us, can you just get it together? Okay, just get it together. Well, as you know, I'm a substitute teacher now. I just go in and out. I have a job. I don't get paid. I get paid there. I don't get paid by nothing else. And that's okay. I got my good dose of I don't care. So it's like, okay, whatever you want, Lord. I'm just going to give my life to you. I'm all yours. So I just kind of step by step. And here's what I found since the starting of Yeshua's house. I'm like, Lord, I'm not going to care about the checking account. You know what we need. Give us what we need. I'm not going to worry about it. And sure enough, the Lord has given us what we need. And he's given us a building just a roof over our head. This one's pretty big, but it doesn't matter. It's a roof over our head. And he's helped us to be a fellowship, an unlikely fellowship, one that says Yeshua all the time, one that says the commandments of our God are really important for Christian living. I mean, it's like, meet on Saturdays. I'm like, Lord, this is just a recipe for ain't going to happen. And he's like, whoa, you just wait. You just wait, Trevor. You see what I can do. I'm like, okay, all right. My breath is also your breath, so just you breathe however you want. So I took Umberto out to breakfast. Now, I want you to remember back when I was 11 years old, Chowchilla, 11 years old, having that first theological conversation with Scott Bauer. He went on, by the way, to take over for Jack Hayford. And then he had an aneurysm. Nice guy. And ended up passing away at 53 years old. And before I started a First Church 25 years ago, I went and interviewed him. I actually drove the car down to Van Nuys, interviewed him, because I wanted, what pointers have you got for some guy that's 27 years old? I mean, I just want to do this right. Newsflash, I didn't do everything right. I don't know if I've done everything right on this time, but I'm doing a lot better this time. I met with him, and he ends up passing away about a year later. Umberto and I are here in Roseville, California. I'm wearing our Yeshua's House t-shirt. Some lady comes up to me and she says, Yeshua's House. I'm like, I'm pretty sure most people don't know about Yeshua's House. So I'm like, hi, nice to meet you. We start talking. I don't know why I even bring up. I think she said she was a part of a Foursquare church, so that was it. I was just trying to relate. I said I went to a Foursquare church when I was in Merced for a little while, and a guy named Scott Bauer was my shepherd. Who I thought, my shepherd. He was teaching me. And she said, wouldn't you know it? I know his wife. So his wife ends up moving here to Roseville, California, because her daughter lives up here. And I'm talking to someone who now has my phone number, is going to give it to Becky Bauer, and hopefully we're going to connect at some point. But in all of it, and Umberto's watching, me and Umberto end up walking now. He's like, I know the Lord's going to do something with that. And I'm like, Umberto, I've just kind of learned to hold everything pretty loosely. I don't know what's going to happen with that. But in my heart, there was something about the Lord just saying, look, I'm bringing you full circle. I finally got you at a place where you know some stuff about this, but you had the heart. And it's not that I didn't have the heart, but life took hold. But I'm bringing these two things together in your life. Now, I don't want this to be about me today. This is really about us. It's about what we're all being formed into as the body of Messiah. You as a person, you are being formed, and I want you to hear that. The Pharisee in you has not been fully knocked out, nor the Sadducee, nor the person whose heart is hard. He is forming you. And the more that we can allow ourselves to be formed by the Lord, the better we'll do. Let's look at this parable with all that in mind. Matthew 22, verse 1. And Yeshua answered and spoke to them again in parables, saying, the kingdom of heaven may be compared to a king who gave a wedding feast for his son. And he sent out his slaves to call those who had been called to the wedding feast, and they were unwilling to come. At some point, there's going to be a final wedding where Yeshua will take his bride. It's called Nesuin in Hebrew. Even the development of this technology called man and woman and how he formed them and put them together is to be an illustration of how the son is to be with the bride. The fact that they were mere male and female isn't just random. This is something that's very important to the kingdom. And we are different, and we're supposed to be different on purpose. And the way that we interact together in the context of community and in our marriages is all designed to be a witness to the bridegroom and the bride. Verse 3 again. And he sent out his slaves, I guess I haven't read it, to call those who had been called to the wedding feast, and they were unwilling to come. In chapter 22, you read up in verse 42 that Yeshua is the stone that the builders had rejected. He had given, in some sense, the development of the temple and all its the construction of it and how it played out. In other words, the facilitating of all that happened in temple life, and also the appointed times. All of that was given to them, but they were rejecting the very thing that it all pointed to. They were invited to this wedding, but they had rejected the cornerstone. They also rejected the prophets, and they're ultimately going to reject him, and he's going to address that in chapter 23. And then in verse 4, again, he sent out other slaves, and I do like how the LSB translates this. Slaves is the idea of those that have traded the kingdom of the world, the kingdom of Egypt, the kingdom that was led by Pharaoh, but now we serve another God, Yahweh. He is our king. His pattern is now our way of life, and we are his slaves. Now, maybe some people don't like the word, but I'm a bondservant. I am one that is totally his. I am in chains to the gospel. I'm in chains to him, and I like it. And I want you to like it too. Again, he sent out other slaves, saying, tell those who have been called, behold, I have prepared my dinner, my oxen and my fattened livestock. They're all butchered and everything is ready. Come to the wedding feast. But they paid no attention and went their way, one to his own farm, another to his business. And the rest seized his slaves and mistreated them and killed them. Yeshua is talking in code that he wants them to get. You killed the prophets. You have rejected me. I gave you responsibility, and you have lost your heart. You, along with all of Israel and Judah, have lost your heart. Verse 6, and the rest seized his slaves and mistreated them and killed them. By doing this is going to have historical consequences. The temple was destroyed in 70 AD. He's going to get them with fire, and he does. This is all also a precursor to what will happen at the end of the age. There will be those who pass through the fire and those who will not. Verse 7, but the king was enraged, and he sent his armies and destroyed those murderers and set their city on fire. And then he said to his slaves, the wedding is ready, but those who were called were not worthy. He called Israel. He called those priests. He called them, but they were not ready. They were not worthy. Go, therefore, to the main highways, and as many as you find there, call to the wedding feast. Well, Yeshua is opening up the door wide open to the Goy, to the Gentiles, to those who he did not have an initial covenant with, but anyone who had the heart, who wanted to partake in the covenant of Abraham. And then to be adopted into the commonwealth of Israel and to have one law that Yahweh has given them, his Shitre Erosin. I'll give you this word, definition in just a moment. But at Mount Sinai, he is betrothing them, and he says, you want to be in this family? There's some initial parameters that you've got to understand. You can't have any other husband but me. And you can't be married to me and take my name and run it through the mud. Don't use my name in vain. You've got to honor that seventh day and keep it holy. Because the wedding that I want to have with you all points to an ultimate wedding, a seventh-day millennial kingdom, after which will be an eternal eighth day where I will make you circumcised of heart. But if you want to be a part of this family, you're going to have to leave what you know. And here's the thing, and I know this. When I came into the family of God, I still told God how Christianity was supposed to be. I told him, oh, no, that's not the holidays. These other ones are. I told him. I instructed him. To which the Lord said, oh, is that so? Oh, is that so? To which I said, yeah, it's so. And he was so patient with me. He was patient with me. Verse 10, and those slaves, they went out into the streets and gathered together all they found, both evil and good. Evil, meaning those that actually did bad things, like Matthew, the tax collector. I don't know where you are in your life or where you've been, but some of you got some dirt on you, and I've heard about it. And I want you to know that that dirt can be covered up by the blood of the Lamb. Yahweh's not looking for perfect people. He's looking for people who will turn from their wicked ways, accept his clothing. He wants to dress you in his attire, and you not reject that and come into the wedding banquet. The evil and the good. There's people that do actual good stuff. They're still not invited to the wedding supper of the Lamb, because just because you're good and you do a lot of good things with Rotary doesn't mean that you can get into this particular wedding banquet. And the wedding hall was filled with dinner guests. Verse 11. But when the king came in to look over the dinner guests, he saw a man there who was not dressed in wedding clothes. Now, you got to get what's called the ancient Near East context, where the host would provide the garments for their guests, especially if it was a royal event. So to arrive without the garment was to reject the host's provision. We can only be clothed with the majesty of our King, Messiah, Yeshua. He clothes us and makes us righteous. So, in some spiritual sense, this garment that he's clothing us with is the righteousness. It's called a tzedakah. It's the righteousness of the kingdom. And if we attempt to enter the kingdom, but we refuse this transformation without teshuvah, say it, teshuvah. Good. These are words that you maybe have not heard before. But teshuvah is this idea of repentance. We use this word all the time. What's repentance? To repent, we're going to really be broken of heart. We're going to say no to that past life. We're going to give ourselves over, bearing ourselves in a sense naked before the King. And he clothes us with his righteousness. Verse 12, and he said to him, friend, how did you come in here without wedding clothes? Now, there's someone that's got in without wedding clothes. They like to try to waltz right in. I don't know if that's millennial kingdom talk, where Yeshua is now, he's returned, he set up shop, and someone tried to bust through the lines. He's like, no. That's not how we do it here. Now, this is a parable, but I'm just trying to drive the point home. The man was speechless. It's like, I thought I had enough. I thought I could clothe myself. And the king says no. And then the king said to the servants, bind him hand and foot, throw him into the outer darkness. In that place, there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Hyperbole? I don't know. I don't want to find out. What I want to do is I want to be really, really in love. And I want to say yes to his kingdom. I want to say yes to his parameters. I want to be married to the King. Now I'm going to say something that, for whatever reason in my past, has made people uncomfortable. But I'm just going to say it like it is. I am a girl. I'm a bride. I am subservient, happily, to the bestest man there ever was, who laid down his life for me. And he's asked me, when you're in my presence, just be subservient. Let me lead. Let me guide. In this dance, let my feet do the dancing, and you follow. To which I say, happily. And every time I've started to lead the dance between me and the King, I start stepping on feet. I start falling. It isn't the way it's supposed to work. Now, at some point, we will talk about the role of men and women in the context of the fellowship. But I just want you to know something, that this is a functional thing. It's not an ontological thing. Ontology is just some kind of fancy word. We are both equal, no doubt about it. But there is a relationship between male and female that is designed by nature so that if we do it properly, it looks like a dance. And then a world who doesn't know God and wants to understand God in the dance can look at the marriages and can look at how we function as a body and go, oh, that's what the dance looks like. One is not over the other, but they're in a dance together. Now, we're not talking about that today, but I just want you to know that I am happy to be a woman. I am happy to be his bride. I am happy. I am happy. And then he says, for many are called, but few are chosen. Now, in this text, there is no doubt that the thrust of the text is designed where Yeshua is interacting first with his disciples back in chapters 18 and 19. He's like, hey, if you want to be a part of the kingdom, you've got to be like a child. You've got to be humble. You can't be asking me who's first in the kingdom. This is an upside down thing. We are to serve. We suffer for one another. We serve one another. We love the Lord and we do what he says and we let go of our rights. But the Pharisees were not very good at letting go of their rights. They wanted to wear their tassels, which I wear, but theirs were extra long. Now, if yours are extra long today, it means a little bit something different, like you really are an outcast. But back then, it was like this badge of like awesomeness. I mean, you had some good old zeet. Those tassels, ooh, Prada. Those are Prada ones. I know it. But whatever the case is that for them it was a different vibe and they would pray extra long, and when they went to somewhere, if someone were to give them the best seat in the house or what, they really liked the accolades. But I want to camp out for a little while that I too am a Pharisee. I too am a Sadducee. I too have what I'd call the hardening of the categories in my life, where I don't know about you. This is just my own story. Is there have been times I've had to fight to keep, not my faith, but I've had to fight to keep that innocence. I've had to fight to keep pure before the Lord. Not pure like sexually. It's more like pure like, I'm just yours. I'm able to let the world just kind of like be the white noise that it is and just kind of all play in the background. But there have been times where the world has kind of grabbed me and pulled me, sucked me into different things. And I just like, no, what is my job? My job is to let Yeshua be the cornerstone. And my job is to be the best possible bride that I can be now. And I want that for you as well. In the Bible, the husband and wife metaphor is like everywhere. I'm going to read you just a couple verses, but I'll also put them on the screen for you. Not the whole verse, but you'll see. In Isaiah 54, 5 and 6, for your husband is your maker, whose name is Yahweh of hosts. And your Redeemer is the Holy One of Israel, who is called the God of all the earth. For Yahweh has called you like a wife forsaken and grieved in spirit, even like a wife of one's youth when she was rejected, says your God. There's a ton of verses just like this, even in what we would call the New Covenant. I'm not going to show you here, but if you want to just kind of, look it up later, Jeremiah 31, verses 31 through 34, it starts off, I'm going to make a new covenant with the house of Israel and the house of Judah. In other words, hey, I'm a new covenant Christian. Oh, good. Where is that? What is that? A new covenant literally is defined by Jeremiah and Ezekiel. And in Jeremiah, I'm going to make a new covenant with the house of Israel and the house of Judah, and I'm going to pull you out of Egypt. And when I pulled you out of Egypt, I was a husband. It says that. A husband to you. Like literally right there in the text. Read it. Verses 31, 32, 33. I don't know if it's 32 or 33. But though I was a husband to you, I betrothed you. But here's the thing. I gave you the commandments and you rejected me. How did you reject me? Well, in grand fashion, you made that golden calf. Essentially, you committed adultery right during our honeymoon time. And then you continued to, this is the prophet language, not mine, but you spread your legs under every green tree. I mean, you were just horrible. Not only were you you were a prostitute, but you paid to be the prostitute. Hey, sorry, Bible can be kind of, quasi PG-13, R-rated at sometimes. But, it's the Bible. So, just letting you know that's probably why we let the kids go out. It can get kind of rough sometimes. But, think about this God who's seeking to be betrothed to a people, and he is hurt. It's like, why will you not follow me? Why in the world? He does that sometimes in the prophets. Like, why in the world will you not follow me? Have I done anything in the relationship that has caused you not to trust me? Well, other verses. Isaiah 62:5, Jeremiah 2:2, Hosea. Most of you, a lot of you have read Hosea. You know why? Because you did your little chapter count beforehand to think, can I even get through this? Yes, you can. I think it's 14 chapters. Like, I can do that. So you've read Hosea. Ezekiel chapter 16, verse 8. It's particularly tender, where he pulls a woman out of the muck and the mire, and she is totally messed up. Maybe it's post-time where she had a little, yah-yah relationship with someone, and she is like out for the count, muddied and messied, and in her nakedness, he covers her. I mean, think about that with you. You were totally messed up with the world's mud, and he covers you up. He never takes advantage of you. He gently protects you. There's the Song of Songs. And then in the Brit Hadashah, the New Covenant, New Testament, John 3:29, I will read this one to you. He who has the bride is the bridegroom, but the friend of the bridegroom who stands and hears him rejoices greatly because of the bridegroom's voice. So this joy of mine has been made full. Who even said that? John the Baptist. He saw himself as both a part of the bride, but also a friend of the bridegroom. And he made sure that he was going to be a good prophet, which he was. And his role was to make straight the pathway for the Lord. And he was Elijah because he announced that. His desire was to take the crooked path that the world had presented to all the people and make it straight. And then on my email signature, I have this next verse, but I happen to know where it is in context. He must increase, but I must decrease. That's what kind of bride I want to be. The kind that continues to get smaller and smaller. The one that just loves intimately. As Yeshua's house is developed, I expressed it before as I don't care, but it's probably more like this. It doesn't matter in the sense that the relationship that I feel with the Lord is growing stronger and stronger and stronger. And I want the same for you. Now, here's some other verses. 2 Corinthians 11:2, Ephesians 5, verses 25 through 32. Then in Revelation chapter 19, verses 7 through 9 is the bride. And in that text, there's the bride versus the assembly. And then Revelation 21:2 and 21:9. These are all verses that you can look up that use this metaphor because Yahweh designed them male and female and gave them into covenant marriage on purpose. And we mustn't mar that. It was designed. You know, some people, I'm just going to say it straight up. I remember the culture shifting and saying that two of the same sex can be married. But by whose authority? No, you cannot. Covenantal marriage that is okayed by God is only what he says it is, and every other thing is nothing. It's someone applying words, it becomes a lie. No, we don't do that. We're going to walk in the truth of the kingdom, and we're going to let Yahweh define what we are. Yahweh define the terms, and let Yahweh define covenant. Kala. Can you say that? Kala? Kala, good. That means bride in Hebrew. Kahal. Can you say kahal? That's the assembly. The assembly of God. You ever heard the church? The church is not really in the Bible. Ecclesia is in the Bible. That's your Greek word. But it has a former Hebrew antecedent, which is kahal. It's an assembly of God's people. That's all it is. So the church was not birthed at Acts 2. It was just the continuation of the kahal, now expressed by a different Greek word, ecclesia. That's it. Man makes up a bunch of stuff. I'm not sure why they do that, but they're trying to wrap their mind around it and leave the Old Testament behind is what they're trying to do, but we don't do that. It is one book, and let's understand what happened at Shavuot, at Pentecost, 50 days after the resurrection. In context, after 50 days after first fruits, is that he came to betroth them at Mount Sinai. He knew that there was a problem with that covenant partner. He knew there was a problem with her. He knew it. And the very law that he gave them was designed to show them that he knew it. And I'm going to deal with that problem. And so someday in the future, when I come and I raise from the dead, I'm going to be your Passover lamb. I'm going to raise the first fruit. You're going to count all the way to Shavuot. And when the Spirit comes, I'm going to have your heart begin walking in the fullness of what I desired for you at Sinai, but you couldn't do it. But now I'm going to begin animating your life by the Spirit. Oh, what kind of husband is that? A good one? Oh, it's good. So in Hebrew thought, the Kala is the one who has entered into the covenant of Kiddushin. Can you say Kiddushin? Good. These are foreign words. Kiddushin means betrothal. He's betrothed you. And you're being prepared for the Nesuin. I've already said that word, but that's the wedding. Remember, Joseph and Mary, did they just immediately get married? Nope. They got betrothed first, but he had to legally divorce her. So the contract had already been signed. They were committed, but they hadn't consummated the marriage, meaning they hadn't done any of the yada yada, things that you do when you're husband and wife. And the Holy Spirit came upon her, and she was with a child, a virgin. She was a virgin. But this bride that we're supposed to be has a singular devotion to the Chatan. Say Chatan. That's right, the bridegroom. And others, such as the Shoshvim. That's the friends, the Shoshvim. Can you say Shoshvim? That's right. So in Hebrew, it's different in the Greek, but John the Baptist is saying, I am the Shoshvim. I am a friend of the bridegroom. Now, he is also part of the bride, but he also has a function. The function is to bring the people of God, to bring people of Yahweh into a covenant relationship with himself. He's making straight a pathway for the Lord. And also is an inviter of the General Assembly, the Kahal. Now, what I want you to see is there's a difference between the Kahal and the Kala. There's the bride and there's the assembly. I'm going to tell you a hard truth that I'm still working through myself. Is there a difference between the bride of Messiah and those who will be in the kingdom? And I'm thinking the answer is yes. There will be an assembly, but not all will be at the altar. You can get me later if you want to. People ask me, like, is there levels in heaven for the people who are like gooder? I'm like, no, it's not quite like that. I know, I made it up. But it's not quite like that. But those who are in the kingdom, there are those whose hearts are particularly driven to be the kind of bride that everyone is clothed, and there's believers, and that's not to be pejorative in the sense like, okay, yeah, if you believe in Yeshua as your savior, you've got to follow the commandments of God. And that's true, you do, but the thing is that isn't never been a prerequisite for kingdom entrance. But there's a difference between the assembly and those who are the bride. Those who are the bride are those who walk as the bride. I'm just letting you know a hard truth, and I'll have to unpack that later at some point. Can you say chuppah? Chuppah, that's right. I'm going to show you a picture of a chuppah. Can you go to the graphic? You know, sometimes I just sit at my computer, I'm like, I'm going to make something that's really, really complicated so you can kind of see all these things put together. And the reason I do this is because I think sometimes I'm reading the text and I'm like feeling really, really in love with the Messiah. And I'm like, I just want to dance. I just want to be with him. And I just want to worship like when I was 5. Father, I love you. I love you. I don't really want to earn a paycheck anymore. I don't care about all those letters. I don't care about contracts. I love you. I love you. And I just want to be with him. You know, sometimes people ask me, do I want a building for Yeshua's house? And I've had to change my answer. It used to be, no, I don't care. Now it is, I kind of care because I want to be with other believers so that we can come together on Tuesdays or Thursdays or whatever and just like worship for like hours if we wanted to. And right now we don't have a place to go. We don't have that. So I kind of want it for that reason. Not because I need to have a place with our name on it or anything like that. It's just, I want to be with him. I want to be with him. So what you see there is you see Messiah on the right. You see the bride of Messiah on the left. In the middle is the cup. And the cup, back then, what they would do when they enter into the contract, he would offer her the cup. Yeshua offers the cup to the disciples. Drink this, all of it. And they believed that when you drank it ceremonially, when you drank, even Yeshua says, drink my blood. I'm betrothing you, drink it. And when you drink it, you're drinking him into you. And I ended up, for those that could handle it, because I didn't want to just, throw pearls to swine. But if I knew that you were really following the Lord, I would say, hey, if you give me latitude to do some symbolism in this marriage, in this wedding ceremony, allow me to have a cup of wine where the bride drinks that cup. Just like they would have done back then. That's how they signed covenant. She would drink. Now, notice the kahal, the assembly. Those are people who are shown up. Oh, they're happy. They're happy, all right. They're good. They're in. I want you to notice a very clear, the only red thing I could find to barricade them off, because ultimately the Pharisees are going to say, you are out. You are uninvited. You are out. But those who are in, you can be in. Now, John the Baptist, the Shoshvim, he is a friend of the bridegroom, but he's also the bride. So you don't have to necessarily be just in one role. And John the Baptist would be a good example of that. So I just want to go over the vocabulary words with you so you understand. Kiddushin is the betrothal. The Shitra Erusin is kind of like a ketubah. A ketubah is the groom's, in Hebrew, it's like the groom's commitment to the bride. The Shitra Erusin is, if you want to be a bride in the context of my household, you need to recognize that you're leaving an old household. There was a Shitra Erusin in some sense of Pharaoh in Egypt, but I've pulled you out of that. I've met you at Mount Sinai because I want you to operate in my kingdom. Do you even want to take the next step forward? Notice that the covenant is not cut until Exodus chapter 24, which is after the giving of the Shitra Erusin, which is essentially the Ten Commandments. And they say yes to that, and then they cut covenant after that, and then Yahweh goes through what's seemingly some obscure laws, but they're not. It's actually a beautiful way that Yahweh says, this is the kind of husband that I'm going to be for you. And you read it and you're like, whew, you good. Because I was a messed up slave sold off to the world. Because you read some of that stuff and you're like, why is the Torah talking about slave girls in another household? Well, because you were the slave girl in another household. And he's going to be like, but under my care you will not be mistreated, and I will elevate you, and I will love you. He's like trying to tell us that through the Torah. The chuppah, in Judaism, you'll see sometimes this big old, thingy. It's like the flowery thing. We have that at weddings today. We have the flower thing, but there's some history there. And that is, his banner over you is love. He is there to be, that sent his spirit. Even on Sinai, the fire and the cloud, all of that was designed to protect, guide, lead. All of that was there. Nakala, can you say that? Nakala. Yeah, don't use these words at your dinner table. They'll look at you funny. But your inheritance, he is inviting his bride to be a part of this inheritance of the kingdom, of all that is good and right. Now, sometimes I think, I talk about the Hebrew words and the Hebrew wedding and all that stuff, and let me tell you what, it's good and right, and I'm glad to talk about it. But let me tell you, do you think that bride standing there is thinking about any one of those fancy words? Nope. You think that bride's thinking about who the guests are and all? Nope. I'm looking straight into the eyes of Yeshua, my bridegroom. I love you. I love you. And imagine Yeshua, who loves you like that. So much so, what did he do? What's he do? He pays a bride price for you. And what's the price for you? His blood shed. All of this is in the context of what was needed in order to redeem you, to purchase you from the household that had full hold of you, which was not the household of Yahweh. It was the household of the world. He purchases you. And one thing that I think Yahweh longs for in us is to have people there that are singing in worship. And we raise our hands. And what is his desire? Is that we are the kind of wife, bride in the making, that isn't only clothed with his righteousness, but we walk in the righteousness because we are in love. Even Ezekiel 36:26. I want to make sure I'm getting this right, because this will, I'd say things off the top of my head, but I'm right this time. Moreover, I will give you a new heart and put a new spirit within you, and I will remove the heart of stone from your flesh and give you a heart of flesh. How many of you have read that text before? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, how about we read the next one? I will put my spirit within you and cause you to walk in my statutes and be careful to do my judgments. Code 4, I've given you my contract, how it is to be with me at Mount Sinai. You were unable to do it. Hebrews 8:8, I found fault with you because of your hard hearts, but I am going to put a new heart in you, and now you, because you love me, are going to be animated by me, and now you're going to begin to walk in my commandments, my statutes, my ways. And then when you get to the end of Revelation, who are those who have the wedding dress on? None other than those who have given their hearts over to the ways of the King. Because what adorns you is not your ability to pray long prayers, to even, look, I want you to give to the poor, but that's not the bread and butter. He's looking for a heart that wants to do all of it together. Yes, give to the poor. I don't want to make that little, but I want you to know that every time you guys are working to honor the Sabbath and keep it holy, and you're looking to the appointed times of our God, all those things that lift up Yeshua, and you do it with a heart where it's not a last minute thing like, oh my gosh, I go to this church and they're doing this thing. What else is competing against that? Yahweh is looking for a people that nothing competes with what his timeline is for your life. That's an issue. I want you to know I struggle. I just want to identify with you. I struggled with that issue in my life for at least 5 years. Once I knew that's what he wanted from me, 5 years. That's a long time. It's a long time to know what you're supposed to do and you don't do it. And then I finally, I give up. Because here's what Yahweh's faithful to do. He is faithful to trip you up over and over and over again until you get it. And I finally got the message. Now, I want you to know it could take you 3 years. It could take you 10 years. I want you to know, as far as I'm concerned, like I've said before, no one is the Torah police here, nor are we to be Torah police for other people. We can spur one another on to love and good deeds and encourage one another in things, and we can even make right judgments, but judgmental, we don't do. We are here to love and help and encourage one another on toward righteousness, not to hurt people. Besides, doing things under duress is not what Yahweh is looking for. Imagine you get up to the altar. Drink it. He knows our hearts. And so when we do the commandments of our God, what he really wants is people to not be under duress. He wants us to be his. All right. I knew that first piece would take quite a long time. But if you have any questions, clarifications, or quick comments, let me know right now. Anyone? Joan? Let's do 3 people. We got a lot more to go here, but I just wanted to take a break here because I knew that would be a big chunk. Joan?
So with the kahal and the kala.
Uh-huh. Kahal
is like
assembly.
Could you say that maybe the kalal is kind of like the priesthood?
I would say, which word were you using?
Kalal.
Kalal, no, the bride. Now, they were to be the bride, but they didn't perform that. They didn't do that.
Okay, so then
the kahal is the assembly of God's people.
Yeah, the kahal is the assembly.
That's right.
Okay, that's what, so could the kahal be like sojourners?
A sojourner could come and be a part of the kahal.
Okay.
Meaning, if you were a Gentile, a goy, and then you came into, the campsite of Israel, and Yahweh says, let them in. There's going to be one law for you and for them. Let them in, and they could be a part of the assembly. Yeah. Okay. A great example of that would be Ruth.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the bride, we want to be the bride.
Of course. That's where I want to be.
Because I want to be in love.
That's right.
Look into his eyes.
That's right. Even Yeshua said, if you love me, what will you do? You're going to keep my commandments. So the ones that are in love, that not just, there's a lot of people that believe, and they love, don't get me wrong, but I think sometimes a little bit ethereal. I'm not religious. I have a relationship with Yeshua. I've heard that, right? But what does that actually mean? What does it actually mean? If you want to move into bride status, what you've got to do is move from assembly into your heart, giving yourself over to the things of the King. And as you do that from your heart, and you do it, you begin to clothe yourself. And essentially the metaphor is you begin to put on your wedding dress. A bride wears a wedding dress. Okay?
So yeah, I would just like to say then that when I first started this walk, my heart was really, really hard, like solid rock hard. And I kept crying out, what's wrong with me? Why can't I? Because I used to be this loving, soft-hearted person, and then life just really beat me the heck up. And I got really hard. And I was and I'd come to church, and I'd see everybody, and I was happy to be here. But he's just done something in me, and where he has just reached inside there and just massaged all that hardness out. And when I come in here now, and I see all of you, and like you're in my thoughts when I'm at home, and I like to pray for you, and I see your faces, and I just love him and what he's done for me, and that he's softened my heart.
Thank you. Thank you. I think Deanna, did you? No? Anyone else? Okay, we'll do an amen to that. Hey, we're going to have 2 other stopping points. So if you don't have anything now, it's fine. Anyone else? Okay, let's continue on. I don't want to miss the forest for the trees here. What is actually happening in the text, even though I wanted to cover that bride situation, is Yahweh does want those Sadducees and Pharisees to know him and to know him for real. But they have not known him for real. They have done a lot of the commandments, but they found loopholes, and they're doing it just for religiosity purposes. He's like, nope, out. That is not how we do it. So they're going to come against him, and they are going to try to trip Yeshua up. But Yeshua is not to be tripped up. I would not want to trifle with Yeshua, that is for sure. Verse 15, then the Pharisees went and took counsel together about how they might trap him in what he said. And they sent their disciples to him along with the Herodians. We would call these strange bedfellows. Why do you have disciples with Herodians? Well, they were at odds on a lot of things. The Herodians could care less about Yahweh. But they didn't want anyone to come against Caesar. And the Pharisees were like, if we can kind of trap him into something that gets him going against Caesar, maybe you'll kill him. So they had this like common agenda, and they kind of used each other. Teacher, we know that you are truthful and teach the way of God in truth. Oh, great Yeshua. Certainly you know the scriptures well. And you defer to no one, for you are not partial to any. You are not going to go look up anything on ChatGPT right now to get your answer. I mean, you obviously know the scriptures. We're going to ask you, and we know you'll give us a good, solid answer. Therefore, tell us, what do you think? Is it lawful to give a tax to Caesar or not? Look, what they're doing is testing loyalty here. They haven't got the message on the marriage supper of the Lamb. They've already rejected him as the stone, the cornerstone, and now they're going to drive that stake deeper. But Yeshua, verse 18, knowing their wickedness, said, why are you testing me, you hypocrites? Look at Yeshua. He is not a mincer of words. Hey, you guys are a bunch of hypocrites. If you want to go ahead and throw down right now, let's go ahead. Let's have our nice little conversation, because I know what you're doing here. I see right through it. I'm not sure his tone. I'm sure he could at once do it in a way that the onlooker audience is like, you obviously don't have road rage, but you obviously know what you're talking about. I don't know how he balanced all that, but he did. Verse 19, show me the coin used for the tax. And they brought him a denarius. And he said to them, whose likeness and inscription is this? And they said to him, Caesar's. Then he said to them, therefore render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's. Okay. Do you pay a tax or not? Who's your loyalty? Who's on that? Whose image is on that coin? Caesar. Fine, give it to him. It belongs to him. Whose image were you made in? Who's your father? Yeshua is giving them this indirect lesson here. If your image is of God, he's putting them right into a trap. If your image is of me, why do you not give yourselves to me? He shifts the focus. He asserts that the entirety of a person's existence, including their currency, belongs to the king. These leaders that he was interacting with are more concerned with worldly politics than the wedding feast. They're more concerned about the grand synagogues, churches they are establishing over and against the kingdom. And hearing this, verse 22, they marveled. I mean, in the crowd, they're like, ooh, you just said that to them? I don't know how well it's going to be for you. Well, the Sadducees went ahead and took their shot. Verse 23, and on that day some Sadducees who say there is no resurrection came to Yeshua, and they asked him a question. The Sadducees, just so you know, you've heard this, I think, they did not believe in the resurrection. And what they're going to do is they're going to take Levirate marriage law in Deuteronomy chapter 25, and they're like, we read the law, we know it, you know it, and we're going to put an impossible scenario together and see how you answer this, and see if we can trip you up and embarrass you in front of everybody. They said, teacher, Moses said, if a man dies having no children, his brother as next of kin shall marry his wife and raise up a seed for his brother. That's the Levirate marriage, or it's Yibam in Hebrew. Now, I know I've taught on this before, and it's always, it stirs up inside of us the ick factor. Now, another thing happened this last week. I met with an old friend that was a part of a college department that I was the shepherd of at that church in Fresno. He married a Hmong woman, and in their culture, if a man dies, in order to take care of his widow and to establish a name for the widow, he will take her on as a bride if she wants to. And he's like, I know that's weird, but my wife saw it happen, and it was not weird. It was beautiful for her. And I'm like, I never knew that happened in real life today. Apparently, these people are not believers. They're not Torah people, but some of these things, because of its wisdom, will bleed into other cultures. I'm not saying remember, if I were to teach that passage in Deuteronomy, I would teach it properly, and there's an out for both the man and the woman. If they don't want to engage it, they don't. But here's what we don't want, is we need a kinsman redeemer. We need Yahweh and his son engaged in Levirate marriage. If not, our names would be blotted out of the Lamb's book of life. And so the first Adam died. And then Yeshua, being the last Adam, he rose and he married that woman that was left for dead. And it's so beautiful when we think of it that way. When we think of it in actuality, we're like, eee. But I heard a story this last week of it actually being a beautiful thing. Well, anyway, they said in verse 24, Moses said, if a man dies having no children, his brother as next of kin shall marry his wife and raise up a seed for his brother. Now, there were 7 brothers with us, and the first married and died, and having no seed, he left his wife to his brother. So also the second and the third, down to the 7th. There's a lot of marriages going on here. And last of all, the woman died. In the resurrection, therefore, whose wife of the 7 will she be? For they all had married her. What you gonna say to this one, Yeshua? But Yeshua answered and said to them, you're mistaken, not understanding the scriptures nor the power of God. For in the resurrection, they neither marry nor are given in marriage, but are like the angels in heaven. But regarding the resurrection of the dead, have you not read what was spoken to you by God, saying, now, he's addressing something here. He's addressing their issue that they do not believe in resurrection at all. But he's going to say something. He's going to quote Exodus chapter 3, verse 6. I am the God of Abraham, and the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. He is not the God of the dead, but the living. Now, because he knew that the Sadducees knew the scriptures really well, he is saying, look, I am the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. These guys had already died. When is this being said? In Exodus chapter 3, Yahweh at the burning bush is saying in present tense that I am their God. So if they've died, how can he be their God if they're dead? And he's saying, no, they're well alive. And when the crowds heard this, they're like, ooh, man. Wasn't sure how you would explain that, but we kind of all get what you're saying. That Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob are not dead. They were dead, but they're not. And then this eternal God has this relationship with his people, thereby showing them that you better leave this people don't raise from the dead thing. Leave that well enough alone. In verses 30 through 40, but when the Pharisees heard that Yeshua had silenced the Sadducees, they gathered themselves together. Hey, let's huddle up, boys. He's kind of cleaning our clock. And one of them, a scholar of the law, asked him a question. Teacher, which is the great commandment in the law? And he said to him, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the greatest and foremost commandment. And the second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. And then what does Yeshua say? On these two commandments hang the whole law and the prophets. Yeshua here, he cuts through all the legal complexity that they are trying to jump through all these hoops, and he's synthesizing the entire Torah into the Shema, which is what we say at the very beginning. Hear, O Israel, Yahweh is one. He commands us to love our neighbor, Leviticus 19:18. And now he's focusing on love. He wants a marital relationship with these people. It can't be defined by religiosity and your degrees, that you're a Sadducee, that you're a Pharisee, where you sit at these banquets. It's, do you have a relationship with me? And so he exposes their legalism as a barrier to a wedding. They're so focused on keeping the rules that they've forgotten the bridegroom. Can I just tell all you Torah people that seek to keep the commandments, statutes of our God, that you cannot become the Torah police. And you can't, I want you to do the commandments, but if you do the commandments and you lose that heart relationship with the Lord and you start looking at other people and how they're doing the commandments, you start to get into this mode of, wait, what are we supposed to be doing as we're at the altar with the Messiah? Look at him. Don't be concerned with the wedding guest. Don't be concerned who's on the inside or outside of the red barrier. Look. Be with him. Encourage one another. You got to go out and mingle. But look. I've discovered that most of my life is noise. There's a lot of things competing for my attention. Your job competes for your attention. Your desires for whatever it is competes for your attention. The constant text messages, all that stuff, it competes for your attention. Now you need to exist in a real world. Do that, but don't let your heart drift from the one thing. Look at him. Be with him. Verse 41. And while the Pharisees were gathered together, Yeshua asked them a question. Yeshua has a way of knowing how everyone operates. I was watching Shark Tank one time, and Barbara Cochran is one of the sharks. I know I think about weird stuff, but this is what I think about. They said, hey, you did a lot of real estate deals, because she was in New York. And I know when I say Donald Trump, it really messes up people's brains. Can you let that go for a second? I'm telling you what, I was just watching Shark Tank as an innocent bystander, watching Barbara Cochran describe what she saw in him that was a little bit different. She said, there was something that he did really, really well. There's a lot of things he doesn't do well, but this one, she's like, he did really, really well. He could always sniff out people's weaknesses. She's like, he was a master at it. And I can kind of see maybe that could definitely be a thing that he's got. But I know someone who is better. And no weaknesses. Our Messiah. He sniffed out all the weaknesses. He knew. And he says to them, what do you think about the Christ? Whose son is he? And they said to him, he's the son of David. Now they're thinking Yeshua is just a man. The son of David. And he said to them, then how does David in the Spirit call him Lord, saying, the Lord said to my Lord, sit at my right hand until I put your enemies beneath your feet. Now he's quoting Psalm 110. Now they're in a quandary. If David calls him Lord, then how is he his son? Because in that culture, if you were the grandpa, you don't call any one of your downline, your son, your grandson, your great-grandson, you don't call them Lord. You don't elevate them. They are below you. And he's saying, what do you think? So David is the author of Psalm 110. David calls the Messiah, my Lord, Adonai. And then in the ancient Near East, like I told you, that patriarchal structure, the father, the ancestor, is never subordinate to his descendant. A king does not call his own great-great-grandson, my Lord. So now Yeshua is forcing them to admit that the Messiah cannot be merely human. If the Messiah is David's Lord, then he possesses a pre-existent divine authority that transcends biological lineage. Yeshua was a master theologian. He knew exactly where their weaknesses are. He knew the scriptures. He knew who he was, and he put them in spots where they had to answer these difficult questions. Verse 46, and no one was able to answer him a word, nor did anyone dare from that day on to ask him another question, which would make total sense. All right, we'll break there just for a sec. Do you have any questions, comments, or insights? Yep, Zenny.
Regarding the two greatest
Commandments?
commandments.
Yeah.
How do you balance that? Because if you see somebody who's not following or being disobedient,
Yeah.
and if you tell them,
Yep.
even if it's the best words you use, they still say you're judgmental. So, and I know you need to pray about it for you to, but in a practical sense, how do you do it?
Perfect. First of all, you cannot be profoundly influenced by something you don't know. So make sure you know what the commandments of your God are, because you can't follow something you don't know. Now, there's a slide, if you can kind of remember where you are, there's a slide where we have, it's like a, I don't know, brown slide. Can you show him? It's my brother Micah is developing this, and I put it on the website. You should visit it at some point. Yeah. It's Group Tuesday, and literally over in the right-hand column is all the commandments of our God, and you can drag and drop and begin to put them over and teach yourself, where would you categorize all of these? And then it gives you your own development, your own legend you can create, and so I'm creating my own legend. This is all free. I'm selling you something, but I'm not selling it to get money from you. I'm trying to get people to know the commandments of their God, and there's other people in my life that are trying to get something practical in people's hands. So first of all, know what the commandments are. Now go back to the slide that we were at. Next part, Zenny. Where are you supposed to be looking? Bridegroom, bridegroom, bridegroom. And the bridegroom is competing with the world. And he says, here's how I feel love. Here's my love language. My love language are the appointed times. My love language are the Shabbats. My love language are these things. The best thing that we can do practically is to actually do them. Best thing, actually do them. And when someone says, I've got a birthday party that you need to attend, there's a competing. Him, birthday party. Him, birthday party. No birthday party, I'm doing this. Isn't that legalism? I don't know. You tell me. It's legalism if you don't want to do it. But it's not legalism if you're so focused and you can't get your eyes off him because he loves you so much and you're enamored with who he is. Then it ain't legalism no more. You hear me? He is my bridegroom. I don't do legalism. In fact, I forbid it. Don't do it. So if I can't do it then if I can't do it because I want to, then I shouldn't do it? No. You should still then be legalistic. And you're like, oh, you're talking out of both sides of your mouth. Well, you tell me, some young man is brand new married, maybe 2 years into his marriage, and he's like, I've got my eye on this other woman. Should I go, I don't know, she's kind of messaged me on Facebook. Should I go meet her after work tonight? And they're like, no, don't do that. And you're like, yeah, but they say, but my heart's not in it. You're like, what do you mean your heart's not in it? I don't care if your heart's in it or not. Make the right decision and let the good decision catch up with you later, and you'll be glad that you didn't mess up like that. But Zenny, to answer your question practically, first thing we do is we keep our eyes on the Messiah. After that, we know what his commandments are, and we do them. We do them. Best we can, we do them. Now, some of you are in situations that, let's just say a Shabbat. On a Shabbat, what do the scriptures command? It's a day of rest, and we're to assemble with God's people. Leviticus chapter 23, verses 2 and 3. It says what to do. Now, some of you are in situations like, but I'm married, and we're not on the same page, or whatever that is. Hey, what are we going to be committed to do at this house is to no one's here to hurt anybody. We're here to support and love. We're here to coach and counsel. But we're going to also encourage, if you ask me, like, what should I do? I'm like, well, do you think it would be okay at this point in your relationship to try to keep your eyes on him? Would that totally mess up your relationship? No? Well, then go ahead and do it. Do what you're supposed to do. But sometimes people are in a really bad spot. And I don't know. I would never want to counsel anyone to miss the mark, so I don't. But at the same time, there's a lot of grace as people learn to walk in the commandments of their God. So the first thing that you can do practically more than anything is just do what you're supposed to do. A lot of people, they go on what's called expanded missionary dating. Back in the day, you're like, I like this girl and, she's not a believer, so I'm just going to start dating her and maybe she will become a believer. And they do that kind of extended form in the rest of their life where I'm going to sometimes do the commandments of God, but then I'm not going to do the commandments of God in these situations with my family because I want my family to know the Lord. I'm like, hey, time out. It's a spiritual issue with them and the Lord. You trying to capitulate to their interests in the world isn't going to get them one step closer to anything. Here's what people really want. Is your God real? And will you do anything for this God that is actually real? That's what people want to know. And if we capitulate to the world, they're like, well, I know your God must not be that important to you, then it's no testimony at all. Just give yourself to Yeshua and love him above all else. And when you do it, when it's not drudgery for you, like you'd be actually excited about doing stuff, they're like, why in the world are you giving up a Saturday to go be in the house of God? Is it good? Well, maybe it is good. And maybe you're missing out. People need to feel like they're, you know what? FOMO could be a little good for some people. But we need to give people something to FOMO about. Okay? So Zenny on that. And then the last part I would say is after keeping your eyes on the Lord and you do what you're supposed to do, the last part is to just be gracious in all things. People need time to learn. Even the Jerusalem Council was like that. In Acts chapter 15, they didn't know everything. They grew up in a Gentile area. They came right into this Yeshua thing, and then there were a lot of people like, you got to do all the commandments of God on day one. And the Jerusalem Council comes together and says, no. That's not how we're saved. Let them be in love first. At the very least, they can't have any other gods. And so these 4 things address other gods. And so let's start there. and then Moses is preached everywhere. They will get the rest of it in due time. Why will they get the rest of it? Because they're in love. They're having their own Sinai moment, their own spiritual Holy Spirit moment. And because they're having that moment, they will come along in due time. Now, here's the last thing is, if someone doesn't have the Spirit of God, nor do they want the Spirit of God, why in the world would you expect them to keep the commandments of God? They don't even really want God. So you chill and you pray. You chill. Now, if they're saying, I am a believer and I follow the Lord, now all bets are off. Because now that you are claiming to be a follower, like the Sadducees and the Pharisees, and you don't walk in the commandments of God, what are you going to do? Continue to walk in missing the mark? Otherwise known as sin. No one likes that word, but that's what it is. What is sin? By definition, missing the mark. He's given us the mark. If you say you're a believer, but you're missing the mark, I want to teach you how not to miss the mark. Not in judgmentalism, but because I want you to actually walk in the love language that Yahweh has given you so that you can walk in the ways that cause your gaze to continue to fix on Him. Yeah, maybe don't ask me big questions. Yeah.
So just to piggyback off of that, in real time right now, there's like a barbecue happening with my family, and it's a big one. It's like 3 or 4 different people's birthday plus Father's Day. And I had a moment in Torah study where, they're sending pictures now, pools and barbecues and, the food and all that. And I'm like, man, maybe I can head over there after this. But I prayed it instead, and I was just like, okay, well, if this isn't something I should even be thinking of, then like remove it from my mind and kind of just reassure me that I'm okay. And what I got almost immediately was that they'll see me not be there and know that I love my God in a very real way, because everyone is there but us.
Yeah.
And we are the only ones that keep Sabbath. And I mean, we're the only ones on both sides of our families that try to walk in the way of, Yahweh. And to answer to your question, it's like, yeah, we pray for them, but we also we love them by showing them by example. And I know that doesn't really, it almost seems like it doesn't go well together. Like, how do you love them in that way? But that's like the best way that we can show them the love of God, and that we love them too. Like, just by showing them by example, the same way we are with our kids,
Perfect.
So I just wanted to share that.
So mine's unrelated to that. I was going to speak on Yeshua telling us that if we love him, we would keep his commands. And I've known that one for a long time, opposed to the things I'm learning now. But I say that to say, earlier in my life, I would compare that to like how I did love seafood. I loved gumbo. I loved, playing football. It feels completely different. So my idea of what love was being changed in front of my eyes. Love is obedience, and it's not doing it for a feeling. It's like, I want my Messiah to look down on me and be pleased with my obedience, and that's my way of showing the love. Because it feels completely different than my wife cooking me a steak, and I just love steak so much. It's not the same as the fulfillment of doing as you're told. And so I just wanted to share that, because I don't know if other people have had that experience of like loving someone when you're a teenager opposed to getting married later in your life, and you're realizing this love is a much deeper and stronger love because it's rooted in Yeshua. It's rooted in Yahweh. It's just, there's a big variation there, at least for me. And so I just wanted to share that.
Thank you. Hey, let me tell you, we should never be stinking thinking, but I do on occasion. I starve behaviors that I don't want to continue to happen. And we do it all the time. If we don't want this to happen, we're going to turn that television show off. And if all of America turns the television show off, the advertisers will get the message. If enough people stop shopping on Sabbath, those businesses will stop selling on Sabbath. but they continue to sell because they have buyers. So you starve the behavior. Now, let me tell you something. Here's what I hope someday for Yeshua's house. Why don't we take pictures and send it to them on the Shabbat where they can get kind of jealous? But before you do that, let me tell you something. This place has got to get a little bit fun. Because darkness and drudgery and not preparing for the Shabbat and coming here and just wondering why I'm here, there's no one at that party going, I'm just wondering why I'm here. All this water and sun going. It's because the God that we worship, we are not creating a situation that is just any fun. And I'm not saying that we got to make it fun, but we can live it. What I'm saying is, you think about the first time. I think about the first time that I touched Amy's hand. Would I describe it as fun? No, but I would describe it as romantic. I would describe it as it took my breath away. I would describe it as, I don't know that I would rather be at any type of pool party, anything. I just want to be here and hold your hand to hope that I can hold it longer. And the first time we kissed, you just can't get that back. There is just something I remember even to this day of like, oh, this is so good. And I'm talking innocent stuff, nothing innocent stuff. Look, I did kiss Amy before I was married. I know there's Christian YouTubers that go, I didn't kiss my wife before I was married. We were married and, all that stuff. But I did kiss Amy before we were married. But I'll tell you, the moment our lips touched, there was some kind of magic in me that did not care about anything else. No one could have sent me any picture in the world that would have made me want to be there instead of where I was. Here's the thing about what we do together as a fellowship on Shabbat. Until we can understand that that's where we are and create that situation, a lot of it has to do, why can we not let loose? Sometimes we're not convinced the commandments are for us. Sometimes we've got issues with the world. Sometimes we just got our hearts in tangled up relationship. And here's what I'm telling you. You need a good can of let it go. I got a little excited there. We just got to let it go. Life is okay. Sometimes I think I need a little bit more SpongeBob in my life. Just, under the sea and, bubbles and happiness. I don't know what that is for you, but we need to get lost in our King. And we need to find a way to do it here. Are we there yet? No, we are not. But we'll get there. We'll get there. So just keep working at it. I need to, as is the way that I am, I knew the last part would go fast, so let me just get through the last part with you. Not to rush, but I actually just knew it would be this way. Then Yeshua spoke to the crowds. Don't get nervous on me. It's not going to be like a whole hour, nothing like that. Not even close, maybe very short. Then Yeshua spoke to the crowds and to his disciples, saying, the scribes and the Pharisees have seated themselves in the chair of Moshe. He's essentially saying, hey, they have the Torah, they're the teachers, they're teaching you, do as they tell you to do because the Torah is good and right. But just don't do it like they do it. I mean, they're showing up at the wedding, but their hearts are not in it. So I want you to do the commandments of God, but I want your hearts to be in it. Verse 3, therefore, all that they tell you, do and keep, but do not do according to their deeds, for they say things and do not do them. In other words, they say they're going to do X, Y, Z of the Torah, of the commandments of God, but then they don't do it. And they tie up heavy burdens and lay them on men's shoulders, but they themselves are unwilling to move them with so much as a finger. They were so excited about the seminaries that they were developing and all the fences in Judaism that calls the fence around the Torah. You have what's called the written Torah and the oral Torah. The oral Torah, when we think of things like the Mishnah, the Talmud, these are commentaries. These are thoughts of the rabbis. And they got really into themselves with, could I have a a bunch of disciples following me, because when we have more people following us, it's true to this day. Do they not measure themselves by how many people are sitting out there? Yeah, influencers, right. So how about we just stop that? That's madness. He's saying, look, let go of the fences. This is not about complexity. It's about being at the altar with me, looking at my eyes and knowing my love language and doing my love language. Verse 5, but they do all their deeds to be noticed by men, for they broaden their phylacteries. Their phylacteries, they have those things on their head. They lengthen their tassels, right? I have my tassels here. I'm wearing them, but they ain't down to my knees. You might want to trim those up a little bit. I don't know what kind of Yeshua's house rule we're going to have. Look at your tassels, like, that's well beyond 12 inches. Now here's a bit of an opposite effect, It's like you're wearing longer tassels. How about this? No one even, it's not like that. I don't wear mine short because this is the way it came out of the box for me. But the idea here is like, do enough to make people a little uncomfortable at Chipotle when you're standing in line, but not so long that you just become the center of the show. Let's put it that way. All right. What verse am I on? Verse 6. And they love their place of honor at the banquets, the best seats in the synagogues, and respectful greetings in the marketplace. Hey, Pastor, how you doing, Pastor? Oh, that was a good message. No. And being called rabbi by men, Dr. Good Rabbi, the Reverend Dr. Good Rabbi. But do not be called rabbi, for one is your teacher, and you are all brothers. Now, some people take this like, don't call anyone teacher, don't call anyone pastor. That is not the thrust of the message. If you go to a place and you say, like, pastor, someone, Zenny will call me pastor. Have I ever told you not to do that? I've not said, hey, you know what, we don't do that here, because that's not what the text is about. The text is about ascribing to someone too much authority, and that somehow they're the source of the authority. She knows I'm not the source of the authority. It is Yahweh and Yahweh alone, and my job, I've got one role, and that is to be an under-shepherd to teach. That's it, okay? How about this? We're all to be humble. No one gets hung up on me or anybody else. And that's part of the reason why we have so many speakers, is because no one knows who they're going to get when they come here except one person, Yeshua. That's it. And do not call anyone earth your father. Well, I can't call my dad anymore. I can't call my father. No, that's not what he's saying. He's just saying put everything in its proper place. Don't get overly enamored with the titles, but we do have one Father. Do not be called instructors. Verse 10. For one is your instructor, your Torah teacher, and that is Messiah. Because ultimately, the Torah is a matter of the heart. Still do what's written, because what's being written on your heart. Where's the law being written on? Your heart. But it's not going to contradict any of the actual words in here. That's what happens to me. It's like, well, yeah, the Torah is being written on my heart, therefore I don't need to observe the words. Well, the words are there to tell you what's supposed to be on your heart. So if there's a contradiction there, something's not being written on your heart. So go back and read the words and make sure what your heart's doing lines up with what the Scripture says. So do them both. But the greatest among you shall be your servant. Again, Yeshua, because we've already gone through Matthew 18 and 19, he's returning back to this humility. You want to be great? You got to be humble. You got to suffer. You got to be like a child. You got to be vulnerable. You've got to focus your eyes on me even when all the ravenous wolves are out there. He's got you. You don't need to be looking around. He's got you. If someone's coming, he's got you. Verse 12, and whoever exalts himself shall be humbled, and whoever humbles himself shall be exalted. And then there's these 7 woes. Oi. Can you say that? Oi. Yeah, that's a Hebrew word for woe. Woe. But woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, because you shut off the kingdom of heaven from people. For you do not enter in yourselves, nor do you allow those who are entering to go in. Effectually, they were setting up a caste system. Levels of people. We are all on the same playing field. I know I'm up here, but I don't even really like this. But it's where the lights are, and if I stand down there, it's hard for, we don't even own this place, right? We can't be moving stuff every week. So it is what it is. Verse 14, woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, because you devour widows' houses. For a pretense, you make long prayers. Therefore, you will receive greater condemnation. Whew, watch out. Here's the thing about men building their structures. You might be able to fool people and yourself your whole life, but there's going to come a time where you're going to meet your maker and you will not, there'll be no fooling. I'm just trying to head that off at the pass because I know he's going to find me out. I know he's found me out. The question is, have I found me out so that I can humble myself? And the truth is, if Moses could say it, I can say it too. I've been beat up pretty good in life. I'm pretty beat up. And it's all good. Not a bad thing. It's a good thing. Because it's got me out of the way. Verse 15, woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, because you travel around on sea and land to make one a proselyte. And when he becomes one, when you convert him, you make him twice as much a son of hell as yourselves. They are creating fences so high, so complex, that the innocent person that's just trying to have a relationship with the Messiah, they can't jump through all their Torah hoops in order to know him. And we got to be careful about that. Do we promote the commandments of God here? Yes. But we're not here to beat people up with it. We're here to get them the Ruach HaKodesh, the Spirit of Yahweh, in them, and then they will want to do it because the way your life looks joyful. But if it doesn't look joyful and we can't find a way to do the commandments of our God in a way that is celebrative and happy, no, the world doesn't. Why? And the Lord's like, is that how you view me? A bunch of rules to check off? Verse 16, woe to you blind guides who say, whoever swears by the sanctuary, that is nothing. But whoever swears by the gold of the sanctuary is obligated. Yeah, they got so nitpicky. In the Torah, it doesn't say to swear by any altar or any gold on the altar. It just says let your yes be yes. Even in the Torah, that isn't just something unique to Yeshua. But what they would do is they would swear by the altar, and then in order, well, what they would do is they thought that the real value of the altar was in the gold, not the altar. It was the altar that gave value to the gold, not the other way around. And so they would swear by the gold on the altar. And that was the real deal. And then they would swear by the altar itself minus the gold. And if they did it that way in their little circle of friends, they didn't really keep their commitment. It was kind of like going like this. Oh, they found all kinds of ways to obfuscate what God was about. Woe to you blind guides. Whoever swears by the sanctuary, that's nothing. But whoever swears by the gold of the sanctuary is obligated. He's like, I cannot believe you guys say that. He's totally calling them out. He knows what's going on. You fools and blind men. For which is more important, the gold in the sanctuary or that which sanctified the gold, the substance underneath, the altar underneath the gold? In their mind, the altar of incense, we'll do that another time. Bronze altar, laver. This is where the people of God brought a draw near, a korban, literally a sacrifice, a korban. They came near to God, and the altar was the place that heaven and earth touched, and the Shekinah glory is there. I want to meet the Lord, and the Pharisees are messing that whole narrative up. He's like, I want to meet my people, and you're trying to get all crazy on the gold. What are you guys doing? Verse 18, and whoever swears by the altar, that is nothing. But whoever swears by offering on it, he is obligated. Again, he's just making fun of him. You blind men, which is more important, the offering or the altar that sanctifies the offering? They would do the same, what they did with the gold, they would do the offering as well. It's not about the offering. The Israelites, they would bring an offering. We bring an offering to praise, but don't get too caught up in your praise. What you're really after in your altering and your a sacrifice of praise is to meet Yeshua, the King of Kings, at the altar who wants to meet you. That is the substance. Therefore, whoever swears by the altar swears both by the altar and everything on it. He's like, well, if you're going to swear by it, go ahead and take the whole gauntlet. And whoever swears by the sanctuary swears both by the sanctuary and by him who dwells in it. And whoever swears by heaven swears both by the throne of God and by him who sits upon it. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, you hypocrites, for you tithe mint and dill and cumin. You got the small parts of the law and have neglected the weightier provisions of the law, justice and mercy and faithfulness. There are some people that come to me and they have hang-ups with some of the lesser matters of the law. To which I say, okay, you should still do it, but I ain't going to get all bent out of shape. But you start to come to me and say, justice is not important and I'm not doing that. Or mercy, then we might have a little talk. The rest of it is, we'll learn together. We'll grow over time. But even then, Yeshua's like, there are weighty matters and there are smaller matters. Some of those smaller matters are, they're important. Still do it, but they're smaller. You blind guides, you strain out the gnat, but you swallow the camel. Whew. I don't need to go over that too much with you. Other than to say that Yeshua is saying that there's weightier matters of the law. Mishpat. Can you say it? Mishpat. Good. Justice. How about chesed? Mercy. Chesed. Say chesed. All right. And emunah. Emunah. Yeah, that's faith. That's what he wants from his people. How about this whitewashed tombs? Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, you hypocrites, for you clean the outside of the cup of the dish, but inside is full of robbery and self-indulgence. You blind Pharisee, first clean the inside of the cup and of the dish, so that the outside of it may become clean also. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, you hypocrites! You are like whitewashed tombs, which are on the outside they appear beautiful, but inside you're full of dead man's bones and uncleanness. In the Torah, it says don't be around unclean things. Okay? You're not going to voluntarily go pick up roadkill and stuff. But what they would do is, if you want to be pure for certain religious ceremony, and I mean religious ceremony because they're making up their own stuff, what they would do is they would whitewash those tombs to alert people to stay clear of that grave so you don't make yourself unclean so you can get to the next festival. Now, I'm not saying don't go to the festival. What I'm saying is they would sometimes dress up death, and they would do it by whitewashing the tombs as a marker. And sometimes we'll do the same, and we just got to be careful not to do that. I'm probably going to explain that exactly right, but I'm on not a total time crunch, but enough. In this way, you also outwardly appear righteous to men, but inwardly you are full of hypocrisy and lawlessness. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, you hypocrites, for you build the tombs of the prophets and adorn the monuments of the righteous, and say, if we had been living in the days of the fathers, we would not have been partners with them in shedding the bloods of the prophets. And Yeshua is like, I'm a prophet standing right here, and what's going to happen in a couple chapters? What you did to them, you're going to do to me. Verse 31, so you bear witness against yourselves that you are sons of those who murdered the prophets. Fill up then the measure of the guilt of your fathers. You serpents, you brood of vipers. How will you escape the sentence of hell? On account of this, behold, I am sending you prophets and wise men and scribes. Some of them you will kill and crucify, and some of them you will flog in your synagogues and persecute from city to city, so that upon you may fall the guilt of the righteous blood shed on the earth, from the blood of righteous Abel to the blood of Zechariah, to the son of Berechiah. I know I butchered that. Whom you murdered between the sanctuary and the altar. You did it to them, or you claim you didn't do it to them, but I already know you're going to do it to me. You are blind guides. You're hypocrites. You do exactly what they did. Jerusalem, Jerusalem. Look at Yeshua now. He shifts. Oh, Jerusalem, who kills the prophets and stones those who are sent to her. How often I wanted to gather your children together, the way a hen gathers her chicks under her wings, and you did not want it. Behold, your house is being left to you desolate. Now, your house. Now notice, whose house was the temple supposed to be? His house. What did they do? We took the temple, we took the whole church system, and we made it our house. He's like, that thing that you're doing, that ain't me. So we're going to cut that out. In 70 AD, all the temples destroyed. Why? It's because of the hardness of their hearts. It was because they made it their house, turned it into a den of robbers. That's what we can't do here. We can't take his Torah and turn it into bad stuff. For I say to you, from now on, you will not see me until you say, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Jerusalem, Jerusalem, verse 37, who kills the prophets and stones those who are sent to her. How often I wanted to gather you. Did I already read that? I think I did. I redid it. That's okay. I need to wrap up anyway. Hey, I often way over prepare. And I don't apologize for that. And I'm convinced that Yahweh cannot be reduced to sound bites. And our love should keep us here. And our love should want to make Yeshua's house beautiful. It only happens if the moment you leave here today, you're all ready for the next Shabbat. You're like thinking, I'm always thinking, right? When you get off the phone with someone that you're in love with, what do you think about? The next phone call, the next date, whatever it is, folks. The Pharisees had turned what he wanted with them into a religious system. That's what we can't do. We can't do it. Let's not do it. Let's stand up and sing to our God.